Hey. Time for an out-of-this-world story from rSpace. Sit down, rSpace. Gaslighting gone wrong and divorce done right. This cheater lost the job, the husband, and the narrative. He kept his savings, his dignity, and the satisfaction of hanging up mid-pity party. Cheating wife goes on a business trip with her boss. His wife exposes them. I destroyed both of their careers. My life feels like a pretty poorly scripted movie at the moment, and I can't say that I'm a particular fan of it. It's very frustrating how you can do everything right in a relationship or a marriage, but things will go the way they choose to go because the person you've decided to trust decides to do what they want or take you for granted. That's exactly what I'm dealing with right now, and I'm trying not to blame myself because I have no direct control over a cheater. But there's still a little part of me that feels as if I could have done certain things differently to prevent things from getting to this point. I, 38 male, have been married to my wife, Joanne, 36 female, for 9 years now. All of this centers around her work, so it is important for me to mention that we haven't always been up there financially. We don't spend recklessly. I'm pretty frugal, and as far as I know, regarding her spending, she doesn't blow money foolishly. At the very least, I was glad that we were both people who wanted to make things better for ourselves financially. While I've been working as a mechanic for several years, things have been tough. It was about 5 years ago that I started to put money aside in the hope of opening a shop of my own one day. I was gathering tools slowly, but the savings are intended for all the costs related to physical location and all of that. Meanwhile, Joanne works in an administrative capacity in a business. It's a national company with a few branches, but it is nothing massive or anything that you'd likely have heard of. She started off small, but over the years, especially recently, her compensation has improved, and that's helped us quite a bit. Although some people wouldn't like to admit it, she now earns a little bit more than I do. I don't mind it because it has helped us keep afloat a bit better, though we are still mostly hand-to-mouth. Since her company is national, she sometimes has to travel to other states, along with her boss and a few colleagues. At least that's what she told me, and at this point, I can verify some of those business trips, but not all of them. The real mess began when she told me that she and her boss had to travel for a trip, and it seemed usual to me, so I didn't have much of an issue with it. I've met her boss once or twice, and he was a cool enough person that I didn't feel the need to be insecure or overthink anything. She took off, and she was gone for a few days, calling and texting like usual. It was the third day of the 4-day trip that things happened. I noticed that she wasn't responding to my messages or phone calls, and while I started to worry, I didn't panic, because it felt like there could have been so many reasons why I couldn't get in contact with her. I tried to get her boss's number, but I wasn't able to find it easily. I only stopped bothering because of what happened later that night, and that was the point at which everything fell apart for me. I mean, it is still a mess. I don't even know what to make of it. I got a call from a number that I didn't have saved, and thinking that it might have been Joanne, I picked it up right away. It was a female voice, but it wasn't her. I didn't even recognize it. The person on the other side of the phone sounded like they'd been crying, but they also sounded angry. The crying made me perk up because I was scared something had happened to my wife. Stupid me. She said her name was Madeline, and she mentioned Joanne, asking if I knew her. I said yes, and I think at that point, I started to panic even more. I think she noticed that because she said that nothing was wrong with my wife, and although I didn't laugh back then, I find it funny now that after that, she said, "You might hope for something to be wrong with her once I explain the situation." She told me that she was Joanne's boss's wife. She asked me where Joanne was, and I told her that she was in Michigan for a business trip with her husband. I could already tell from that point what I was about to hear, but I was really hoping it wouldn't be. She said that she thought the same thing a few months ago, but she had learned a lot in that time, and she knew the truth. Madeline told me that she was in the Bahamas, and the only reason she was there was that my wife and her husband were there. I told her that couldn't be true, and she asked me whether I had seen any evidence that my wife was in Michigan, which, to be fair, I hadn't. I started asking questions because I don't want to call her a liar, but it was hard for me to believe something like that out of nowhere, especially when it was going to completely destroy the notion that I had up to that point that my wife had been traveling entirely for business reasons and nothing else. I told her that it wasn't as if I didn't believe her, but I needed proof to believe something as lofty as that. She said that she'd send me a video after the call, but she said it to tell me straight up that my wife and her husband had been mixing in personal getaways of their own amidst actual business trips. According to her, some legitimate business trips were just my wife and her husband, and that was probably where they started the affair. Most business trips were with other colleagues, though, and then she knew of at least 2 getaways before this one that they tried to cover up. I asked her how she had found out on her end, and she said it was simply because he had been sloppy. She called into the office to try and get a gift sent to her husband at work, but instead of being told that he was on a business trip, she was told that he had taken days off, which she obviously knew nothing about. When she decided to go digging into his email on his phone, that was the point where she had found evidence of his cheating. It all sounded very plausible to me, but honestly, I didn't want to believe it. She knew too much about my wife and work for me to think that it was all false. I told her that I had been trying to reach my wife for the last several hours and I had been unable to. She said that was probably because she had caused a scene. She thought that was funny. She told me that she hadn't had a hand on my wife, but she had caused a big commotion. I was so conflicted by the entire thing. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. The person who had supposedly cheated on me couldn't even be reached by phone, so how was I meant to investigate things further? I thanked her for everything and I told her that I would appreciate if she sent me the video she had mentioned earlier. I let her know that if I confirmed it, I would like to meet up with her so that we could talk things over in person, since that would be a lot better for me. She said that there wouldn't be any kind of problem doing that and that I could reach her on the same number if I needed her. About 20 minutes after the call, I received a message with the video in it. It was a bit chaotic, but from it, I could tell that it was taking place in the room of a resort, and there was a lot of screaming and shouting going on. It was hard to tell since the person filming wasn't trying to capture everything perfectly. I assumed she didn't want them to know that she was filming, but I could see a woman in the corner of the room in all the chaos, and I was almost entirely sure it was Joanne. It wasn't until the end, when Madeline walked up to Joanne and started threatening her, that I was able to see it enough and confirm that it was her. They were both in the same hotel room in the Bahamas, and I knew there was absolutely no way to explain that away, and it was exactly what it looked like. Do you know how wild it is to realize that a woman who you thought was making moves to establish herself better in the company where she worked was actually cheating on you? She was making moves in the business, that's for sure, and the worst part is that I can imagine myself confronting her, and she says that she was sleeping with her boss in order to secure promotions. Every promotion that she had had up to that point started to concern me, because I could no longer believe that she had earned them on her own merit. Things got even worse when she finally called me back in the early hours of the next day. It was clear that she had been crying, but she kept claiming she was okay. I told her how worried I was when I hadn't heard from her, but she mumbled the stupid excuse about her phone dying. She said that her phone had started misbehaving and she had no idea why. I just agreed with her because I hadn't even entertained the idea of confronting her before she called. I wanted to do it in person because I didn't want to leave room for her to deny everything or invent stories. She told me that she needed my help booking a plane ticket. Obviously that didn't make sense because as a business trip, the round-trip flights should have been booked, not one way. According to her, that was the case, but apparently the return tickets that had been booked were invalid or incorrect or something like that. She couldn't stick to the explanation. It was clear that she didn't want to do a deep dive and do a poorly conjured lie. She said that she'd be reimbursed for it by the company, so she just needed a loan from me. I told her that I'd get back to her, but I didn't. I was not ready to dig into my savings to pull out money for her to get back from her affair. I wanted to confront her in person, but I knew for a fact that I was not going to spend my money to make that a possibility. She started to call me back, and eventually, I just switched off my phone to leave her with the consequences of her actions. That's what I'll call karma. This is less than 24 hours after, and I'm sure she's been trying to reach me, but I'm not going to bother with that. To be honest, I'm sure she's probably figured out a way to get back, and I'll have to confront her soon. At this point, I'm ready for it, and I hope she had a horrible time making her way back. You did everything right. Stayed committed, worked hard, built up a future both financially and emotionally, and trusted your partner to be on the same page. And then she went and just ripped it all up. You're not responsible for someone else's choices to cheat. You could have been the perfect partner, and she still would have made that call. Update 1. This will likely be somewhat short, but I think I should just come and slide this update in now, while I have the time to write it. You can check my post history to read the previous details, but the short story is that my wife went on a business trip with her boss, but instead of being in Michigan, they went to the Bahamas. Something happened and she couldn't make it back, and tried to get me to pay for the ticket back, but I turned off my phone instead. When she finally got back home, I was surprised that she was bold enough to try anger as her first tactic. I suppose she wanted to act in the hope that I knew nothing, which wasn't exactly a bad tactic, but the problem was that, since I knew, her anger made everything much worse. After dropping her suitcase angrily, she walked right past me to have a glass of water in the kitchen. Only when she noticed that I wasn't doting on her did she come at me straight. She started yelling that she needed my help, and I turned my phone off when she was stranded. She said she waited the whole night expecting me to help out. According to her, it was only when the company actually fixed the situation that she eventually managed to get a ticket back. She said it was so embarrassing for her and that it was all my fault because I could have helped her out. I laughed and told her that I was sorry, but my laughter seemed to make her angrier. Before she could blow up at me, I told her to cut all the bull. I told her I knew everything and there was no point in her trying to act like she had the moral high ground. She tried to play dumb, asking me what I was talking about, But that just set me off even more. I let her know that I knew she went on a trip with her boss, but there was no business involved. It was entirely pleasure. I really expected her to just admit defeat at that point, but nope. My whore of a wife decided to act like she didn't understand what I was talking about. "Who told you that?" with a confused look on her face. She said that she had gone to Michigan, exactly as stated, and that while it was true that she went with her boss, they had only ever had a formal relationship. I don't know whether her lying had been thought through or if she just panicked and decided to go down the route where she avoided any accountability, but either way, it showed me how stupid she really was, because she had no idea of the evidence I had or what I knew. She just decided to deny it outright. I told her straight up that I had a video of her, and she froze. At that point, it seemed that she didn't realize that Madeline had taken any footage of her. I told her that the video showed her in the corner of the room in the resort while her boss and his wife were making a scene. I think at that point she realized that there was no point in lying. It was enough for her to know that there was an actual video, even though I wasn't going to show it to her. I told her to sit down and tell me the truth about the situation since we both knew what had happened, and all I wanted was for her to be honest with me. I didn't want to deal with any of the lies anymore because she had spent a significant part of our marriage lying to me. She shook her head at that part, and it annoyed me, because it was as if she was really ready to disprove me, saying it had been going on for a significant time. It was amusing to me how much a cheater is ready to tell you that they had only been cheating for 3 months and not a year. The truth is, I knew that the only reason I wanted her to talk things over with me was because I wanted to hear everything that she had to say. It wasn't going to save our marriage. I would have been foolish if I still held out any hope for us. The way that I saw her was completely different from how I had seen her before. So, she went over the entire story. According to her, he had been the one to come on strong during their multiple trips, and she feared for her job, so she didn't let him down too harshly. Eventually, one day, she had too much to drink, she was missing me, and she eventually started sleeping with him. She said that she got used to it and began to enjoy it as an escape, though she admitted it wasn't as good as with me, that it was never the same. Obviously, I disregarded that part because there was no way to actually believe that or not. She said that she didn't know why she started lying to me and why she started going on trips with him outside of business trips. I told her it was because she liked the excitement, but she denied that immediately, claiming that she was probably scared of the consequences and because of the money issues we had been having. It didn't seem smart for her to risk the job, seeing as things were getting better for her occupationally. Oh, how selfless of her. It was wild that she actually had a justification for everything. Then she said that the day she had asked for the ticket, the truth was that his wife had come to mess things up. She didn't destroy anything or hurt her, but after the entire mess, her husband left immediately and left with the tickets that he had bought. She panicked and had no idea what to do when she was stranded in another country. She said she knew I'd be dependable, but she couldn't tell me the truth then, but was planning to tell me the truth when she got back. I didn't have to say anything, but she knew I didn't believe that for obvious reasons. I told her that I had heard her explanation and that it'd be a good idea for her to leave the house. Seeing as she was trying to present the illusion of being reasonable, she said she agreed. Though she had only just gotten back home, she really needed to take a nap. To make my life easy, I agreed, and when she somehow actually managed to fall asleep despite everything, I went to visit the same divorce lawyer that a close friend of mine had used. When I got back, she was still sleeping, but when she woke up, she got her things and left without issue. I'm thankful for that much. The divorce papers are being prepared, and I can't wait for this entire thing to be over. I want to make sure that she has to deal with the full consequences of her actions. Update 2. It has been several weeks now, but I'm so glad to say that my divorce process is finally over. We didn't have to go to court, which I'm grateful for. I told her that I had more evidence than she wanted to confront, including Madeline, her affair partner's wife. On top of that, she earned more money than I did, so if she really wanted us to take things to a judge, I let her know that it was possible I'd end up the one as taking alimony. I also told her not to eye any of my savings because if she did that, I'd make sure to really destroy her. Unfortunately, she and her lawyer tried to get the apartment and 20% of our marital savings, most of which were saved by me, and my lawyer, a lot more vicious than the relative novice she had, was able to convince them of how bad an idea that was. The mediator helped a lot in that regard, and she eventually stepped down. However, despite her fault being acknowledged, the mediator said that I'd be best suited to try and even the scales just a little, so I handed over the car. It was used and fully paid off, so that hurt, but it helped the process go a lot quicker. That wasn't where I was going to leave things though, because she had destroyed my life, and I needed to make sure to hit her back. So the first thing I did once we were officially divorced was to write a strongly worded letter to her workplace. I knew it was possible that she might not be let off from the job, but it was certain that her boss would be, and as her affair partner, who was not only married but knew that she was married, I had hurt him. With my investigation, I sent all of my proof. I made sure to mention her and him by name. What made it interesting was that I got a full response only 2 weeks later, stating that the stated senior employee had been released by the company and as a result, and the junior employee was merely cautioned. I wasn't surprised by that because no matter how willing she was to sleep with him, it'll always be excused with the power imbalance. I knew that the workplace wasn't getting tough for her though, as a result of the story of her cheating getting around. She called me to ask whether I reported her to her workplace and I only played dumb. I told her that it wasn't me, that it had to be Madeline, who was divorcing her husband too, with less than ease than I. She took that explanation and used the opportunity to rant about how hard things were. Then she talked about how much she missed me and how she had made a huge mistake. It felt good to listen to it, especially when she started crying, but after a while, I just got pissed. Why did she only appreciate what she had at the very end, when she ruined everything and lost it? When she kept yapping, I just had to hang up on her. Only a few days later, she said she quit her job because she started feeling very uncomfortable. She was crying. The annoying part was when she said she didn't deserve to be the subject of gossip. That was funny. She did everything to make sure she was exactly that. I told her that it was unfortunate she now didn't have a job and that she'd bounce back. However, I chose to tell her that she cheated on me, she deserved everything she was currently getting, and that she should stop calling me. She didn't say anything over the phone for the next 10 seconds, so I hung up and blocked her number. She's been trying to send me messages on social media, but I'm ignoring them. That's pretty much it. That's hopefully the end of anything that involves me and Joanne, but I'm glad to be rid of her. In a way, it feels like I'm starting things over from zero, but I think I'm young enough to start things over. But right now, I have no interest in women or relationships. I'll just focus on working and getting my business started. I hope everything goes well. You handle this like a man who knows exactly what he's worth and refuses to be dragged down by someone else's mess. The audacity of her to come home angry as if you were the one who stranded her in the Bahamas while she was busy dismantling your marriage. It's wild how quickly some people will scramble to rewrite the story when they think they still have a shot at control. But you held the line. Blocking her? Long overdue. She made her choices. Now she's living with him. And that weight doesn't belong to you anymore. Do you have a similar experience? Share your story with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you next time.